Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into one of the biggest mysteries out there, really. The death of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, it's fascinated people for decades.
Absolutely. I mean, a global icon, martial arts legend, seemed invincible, right? And then suddenly gone at just 32 back in 73. It just stunned everyone.
It really did. And, well, the speculation started almost immediately.
So our mission today is to kind of sift through the latest findings, the public info, and really unpack this compelling new idea about what happened. We're basically asking, what does the science now suggest about who killed Bruce Lee?
And for so long, the official story just felt, well, thin. Bit too simple.
Right.
And that gap, that lack of a satisfying answer, it led to all sorts of wild ideas. Like, you heard theories about assassination by gangsters.
Sounds like one of his movie plots.
Exactly. Or even, a family curse.
Yeah.
But we're going to look at where the actual evidence points.
Okay, so let's start there. What was that initial official explanation, and why did it sort of immediately raise red flags for people?
Well, the official ruling was cerebral edema, which is just severe brain swelling.
Okay.
And the cause they gave was hypersensitivity, like a bad allergic reaction to Equagesic. That's a painkiller.
Yeah.
A mix of meprobamate and aspirin.
But that didn't sit right.
Not really. Because, well, a couple of things. Lee had apparently taken Equagesic before, with no problems. That's a big one.
Oh, okay.
And, maybe even more importantly, he took the pill after he started feeling bad, the headache, the dizziness.
So the symptoms were already starting before the pill.
Precisely. Which suggests the pill wasn't the trigger. Plus, with a severe hypersensitivity reaction, you'd usually expect other signs in the autopsy, not just a brain swelling.
Right. So that official story started to crumble pretty quickly, and that's when, all the other theories rushed in to fill the void.
Oh, yeah.
Let's maybe just quickly knock some of those popular ones on the head. The assassination plots, mobsters, rivals, whatever.
Zero evidence. The autopsy showed absolutely no signs of injury, no poison, nothing like that.
Despite all the rumors.
Despite the rumors. And the family curse idea. I mean, it's incredibly tragic that his brother died young and then his son, Brandon, died later on a film set. But that's heartbreaking coincidence. It's not, a scientific explanation for Bruce's death.
We have to stick to the forensics, right? What about drugs? There were later reports about letters mentioning cocaine.
Yeah, those reports surfaced. But crucially, there's no public evidence he used it that day. And importantly, the toxicology didn't find any cocaine in his system.
Okay. What about epilepsy? Didn't he have some kind of seizure episode before he died?
He did, a couple months earlier, and that led to an epilepsy theory. But a few things argue against that. He wasn't diagnosed as having chronic epilepsy. He was actually on anti-epileptic medication, phenytoin.
Right.
And a really key forensic point. The autopsy found no tongue bite. It's a common sign you look for after a major seizure.
Gotcha. And then there was a more recent one, heat stroke. From 2018, Hong Kong's hot. He was incredibly fit.
Yeah, that one sounds plausible on the surface, but again, it doesn't quite fit the facts. That specific day, July 20th, 1973, wasn't unusually hot for Hong Kong.
Okay.
And the autopsy didn't show the kind of widespread organ damage you typically see with fatal heat stroke. Also, sudden death from heat stroke is pretty rare. Usually it takes 24 to maybe 96 hours. It's not usually that quick.
What about that idea he had sweat glands removed, making him prone to overheating?
Yeah, people mention that. But you sweat all over your body, not just your armpits. And actually, in that earlier episode back in May, he was seen sweating profusely. So those glands clearly weren't his only way of cooling down.
So it seems like all these external theories, foul play, simple drug reactions, even heat stroke, they just don't line up with the evidence we actually have.
Exactly. The forensics keep pointing away from those things. We're looking for something more internal, something subtle.
Which brings us back to the main question. What did happen on July 20th, 1973? Let's walk through that day.
Okay, so the known timeline is Lee and his producer, Raymond Chow, went over to the apartment of an actress, Betty Ting Pei. Lee spent some time there with Ting Pei.
Okay.
Reports say he'd used some marijuana before arriving. And while he was there, he was quite active, apparently acting out scenes for a movie they were planning.
And then things took a turn.
Right around 7:30 p.m. He reportedly drank some water, then complained of a headache and feeling dizzy. Betty Ting Pei gave him one of those Equagesic tablets, and he went to lie down in the bedroom.
And he never woke up.
Chow came back later. Around 9:30 p.m., Ting Pei checked on Lee and couldn't wake him. Chow came in, they called the doctor, tried to revive him, but It was too late.
And the autopsy, what were the absolute key findings there?
Well, like we said, no external injuries, no tongue bite, but severe cerebral edema, that brain swelling. His brain was significantly heavier than normal, 1,575 grams versus about 1,400 grams usually. They also found traces of marijuana in his stomach contents. But the big thing, the central puzzle piece, was that massive brain swelling with no other obvious cause.
So with all those other theories pretty much debunked by the evidence, the case went cold for a long time, right? What changed?
Decades passed. Then, just a couple of years back, in 2022, a team of nephrologists.
Kidney specialists.
Exactly. Kidney specialists. They looked at all the existing evidence again, but through their specific lens, focusing on the kidneys and fluid balance. And they proposed a new hypothesis. Bruce Lee died from cerebral edema caused by hyponatraemia.
Hyponatraemia. Okay, break that down for us. What is that?
Simply put, it means your blood is too diluted. There's too much water relative to the amount of sodium or salt.
Like watering down soup, you said earlier?
Precisely. And when the sodium level in your blood drops too low, it creates an imbalance. Your brain cells, trying to equalize things, start pulling water out of the bloodstream and into the cells themselves.
So the brain cells literally swell up with water.
Yes. It's called osmotic edema. The brain swells inside the rigid skull, and that pressure becomes fatal. This fits perfectly with the main finding from the autopsy, the severe cerebral edema.
And it fits the timeline, too. You said it can be rapid.
Absolutely. Acute hyponatremia, if it's severe, can kill within hours if it's not recognized and treated. That matches the rapid decline Bruce Lee experienced that evening.
It makes sense. Our bodies are usually amazing at balancing water, though. It seems like a delicate system.
It is incredibly sophisticated. You got your blood concentration, sodium levels, the thirst mechanism, and this key hormone called antidiuretic hormone, ADH.
ADH.
Think of ADH as the manager telling the kidneys, hold on to water or let it go. And normally our kidneys are powerhouses. They can filter and excrete massive amounts of water if needed, like up to 18 or 20 liters a day.
That's a huge amount. So if our kidneys are so good at this, how does hyponatremia even happen?
Well, two main ways. Either you drink water way faster than even healthy kidneys can possibly process it.
Like those dangerous water drinking dares you sometimes hear about.
Exactly. People have died doing that, consuming maybe 7-8 liters in just a few hours, even young, healthy people.
Wow.
Or the more common scenario, especially in this context, is when there are underlying factors predisposing risks that limit the kidney's ability to get rid of water effectively, even if the intake isn't ridiculously high.
Okay, so this raises the question, did Bruce Lee, this seemingly super fit guy, have those kinds of underlying risk factors?
And this is where, as you said, it gets really interesting, because it looks like he had a whole constellation of them, a perfect storm.
Let's start with that episode 2 months before he died, the one in May 1973.
Right. He collapsed then, too. Had a headache, disorientation, vomiting, even convulsions.
Yeah.
He was taken to hospital, diagnosed with cerebral edema again.
Same thing.
The same thing. And critically, blood tests during that hospital stay showed his BON blood urea nitrogen was really high, 92 milli-GVL.
Which means?
It indicated acute kidney injury, AKI. Basically, his kidneys took a hit. They weren't functioning properly at that moment. Now, his kidney function reportedly went back to normal afterwards, but that previous injury is a huge red flag. It suggests his whole water balancing system might have been vulnerable.
Okay, so a potential kidney vulnerability. What else? You mentioned fluid intake earlier.
Yes, his wife Linda Lee Cadwell wrote about his diet, describing it as largely fluid-based, lots of carrot and apple juice. And people who saw him on his last day noted he kept drinking water.
So potentially a chronically high fluid intake pattern.
It seems plausible. Which, combined with a vulnerable kidney system, you start to see the risk building.
It really makes you think differently about just drinking plenty of fluids, doesn't it? There's a balance.
It absolutely is. And other factors pile on. Cannabis use, which he reportedly did that day.
Right.
Marijuana is known to cause dry mouth or cotton mouth. Makes you thirsty. So that could have driven him to drink even more water, further diluting his blood sodium.
Okay. What about alcohol? There were reports about that too.
Yes. Some accounts suggest his alcohol consumption had increased in his final months. Things like multiple bottles of sake in an evening. Alcohol itself can mess with that ADH hormone we talked about, impairing the body's ability to excrete water properly. It's another known risk factor for hyponatremia.
So, high fluid intake, maybe driven by thirst from cannabis, plus alcohol potentially messing with his water regulation. What about the type of fluids? That juice diet.
That's another really important piece. A diet that's mostly fluids, like juice, often called a tea and toast diet in medical literature when it lacks substance,
Right.
means very low intake of solutes, things like salt and protein. Your kidneys actually need solutes to help them pull water out of the body and excrete it as urine.
So, if you're not taking in enough salt and protein,
Your kidney's maximum ability to excrete water goes down significantly. It makes you much more susceptible to hyponatremia if you're also drinking a lot of fluids.
and that fits with his weight loss too, right? He
Yeah.
lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, reportedly 20 pounds over 2 years, and something like 15% of his body weight just in the 2 months before that May collapse. That drastic weight loss could certainly reflect a very low solute intake, putting his body under, well, immense stress.
Okay, this is building a powerful picture. Diet, habits, prior kidney issue. But you mentioned his medicine cabinet. That inquest finding of a wide assortment of prescription drugs, how does that fit in?
This is crucial because several types of common medications can, unfortunately, interfere with water balance and increase the risk of hyponatremia.
Like what?
Well, potentially diuretics. He reportedly used them sometimes to achieve that incredibly ripped physique for filming.
Right, to cut water weight.
Exactly. But diuretics, while doing that, can also deplete sodium and sometimes contribute to kidney stress, setting the stage for hyponatremia if fluid intake increases.
Okay, what else?
He was taking taloxine for pain at times.
Yeah.
That's an opioid analgesic. Opioids can sometimes stimulate the release of that ADH hormone.
The hold on to water hormone.
Yep, telling the body to retain water. Opioids might also contribute to adrenal insufficiency in some situations, which is another cause of hyponatremia.
And the Equagesic he took, the aspirin component.
Aspirin is an NSAI, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Some NSAIDs can also interfere with water excretion, partly by affecting how ADH works, especially if someone's already dehydrated or using diuretics.
Wow. And he was also on that anti-epileptic drug, phenytoin?
Yes. And phenytoin itself is known to be a medication that can predispose people to developing hyponatremia.
It's like every angle points towards a potential problem with water balance. What about anabolic steroids? There were rumors about those too.
Yes, reports mentioned on and off use, sometimes combined with diuretics. Coming off steroids, especially if combined with other factors like opioid use or phenytoin, could potentially trigger a state of adrenal insufficiency.
And that affects sodium and water balance too.
It can, yes,
Yeah.
is another potential contributor to hyponatremia. And finally, even just the physical exertion. He was acting out fight scenes that day. Intense exercise itself can sometimes trigger exercise-associated hyponatremia, especially if you're drinking a lot of plain water and have these other risk factors lined up.
So it really wasn't just one single thing. It was like a cascade.
That's exactly what the nephrologist proposed. Not one smoking gun, but a whole collection of risk factors acting together.
The high fluid intake, the low solute diet, the cannabis making him thirsty, the alcohol, the prior kidney stress from May, and then this cocktail of medications, diuretics, opioids, NSAIDs, phenytoin, plus maybe adrenal issues from steroid use.
All converging. Each factor perhaps small on its own, but together they created a situation where his kidneys simply couldn't excrete the water load he took in that day. His blood sodium dropped dangerously low.
Leading to the brain swelling.
The fatal cerebral oedema. His body just couldn't maintain that vital water balance anymore.
It's incredibly poignant, isn't it? When you think of his most famous quote, "Be water, my friend."
The irony is profound. It appears that water itself, or rather his body's inability to handle an excess of it under those specific circumstances, was ultimately his downfall.
And this deep dive, it really brings home a wider point, doesn't it? About something we take for granted.
It really does. It's a stark reminder, a public health message almost, that excessive water intake, especially when you have underlying risk factors, and many of these factors, like certain medications or diets, are quite common. It could be dangerous, even lethal.
Yeah. Water is life, but like anything, balance is key.
Exactly. Even something essential can be harmful in the wrong context, in excess.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. How much do we really think about the delicate internal balance our bodies are constantly maintaining? And how seemingly small things, our habits, the pills we take, the diets we try, can combine in unexpected and sometimes dangerous ways?
It's definitely food for thought. Understanding these connections could be incredibly important.